Okay, let's try this again. I just have that blasted cough still. And I literally had the hugest cough attack trying to record this. So let's try this again. I love being a mom and wife so much sometimes. And I don't love being a mom and a wife sometimes. More about that in just a sec. My kids were joking about their dad, and they were all talking about how they know he's mad at them or how they know he's upset. And they all said at once, he says this phrase, "You are making me mad." And all the kids started laughing. And my husband, it's true, he rarely gets mad. And so they know he's serious when he says that phrase. You are making me mad. It's not a phrase that can actually be true, as much as it does get my husband's point across. If you know this work, you know that no one else can actually make you mad. We create the feeling of anger with a thought we're thinking about whatever is going on, which brings me to a not fun mom moment. This past Sunday, instead of going to our church, we went to my granddaughter's baby busing. From the minute we got in the car for the 10-minute drive, my two kids in the back seat were fighting. I was pretty proud of myself for just allowing my emotion and not getting involved. My husband, meanwhile, was telling them to stop, and that wasn't working. During this time, I realized I did not have the address to the building where the blessing was happening. And I doubted that my daughter would be looking at her phone as she was trying to get 5 kids under 6 ready for the baby blessing. There are so many churches super close to her house. Meanwhile, the kids kept fighting in the back seat. My daughter wasn't texting me back. Right when I was getting really stressed because there we were near her home and I had no idea which building it was. The address came through on my text. And so I was trying to talk into my phone to get directions. The kids in the back were so loud with their argument that I tried multiple times with my phone to speak the address, and my phone couldn't understand what I was asking. At that point, my anxiety spiked. I was, of course, catastrophizing and thinking we're going to miss the whole blessing. And it's all their fault, of course. And I turned around and I yelled at the two in the back seat, "Don't say another word." Their eyes got huge. And guess what? They didn't say another word. I quickly went to that place in my head as soon as I did it of, I'm a bad mom for yelling and good moms don't yell. And I didn't do a good enough job of allowing my emotions. And I shouldn't have reacted because I know better. I've learned that it's really easy for me, knowing this work and teaching it and coaching on it, to use the knowledge I have gained against myself. I've noticed most of my clients do the same who know this work. We know the model, we know how to allow emotions. And so then we can't do it right. We feel worse than ever because now we have all these tools and we stink at them. If you've ever felt that way, you're in good company. I try really hard to be onto my brain and remind myself that I'm not going to use the model against my own self. I'm not going to beat myself better. I'll always get negative results from that place. Yes, I can be disappointed that I yelled and allow that. I can always apologize for best results. I need to quickly move on and just acknowledge that I can do better. Loving myself better has been and is the only way to permanent progress for me personally and for the clients that I coach. So I moved on. In fact, some of the thought work I had was, I'm pretty awesome that my kids were shocked into silence. My older kids wouldn't have been fazed at all. I used to yell at them all the time before I knew this work. I just thought my emotions were happening to me and I couldn't control them. So what a beautiful and life-altering concept to know that I have much more control than I thought. Even if I don't have total control, I have a lot more control, which was kind of awesome. As we grow in emotional maturity, we gain emotional intelligence. I believe the highest form of emotional intelligence is taking complete responsibility and ownership for our emotions. What does this look like? When I started making strides in my marriage in relation to emotional intelligence, I'd catch myself feeling a negative emotion towards my husband. My first step was to recognize and name the emotion I was feeling. Sometimes I couldn't figure it out. It seemed like 5 emotions. I just became conscious of what it felt like in my body if I couldn't figure out what emotion it was. Did you know you don't actually need to know the exact emotion and get it right in order to allow emotions? Then I would either allow the emotion or I would ask myself what thought I was having that was causing me to feel that way and think of a better thought. So I might be feeling annoyed, upset, forgotten, alone, sad, anxious. As I got better at becoming aware of my emotions, I started to take accountability for them. So I would tell myself, he's not causing or making you feel blank. You are making yourself feel blank. I think this practice of emotional ownership is one of the single most important skills I learned to improve and transform my marriage. I'm going to say that again because it was so true. The practice of emotional ownership, so anything I felt was mine to own, was by far one of the single most important skills I learned to improve and transform my marriage. In practice, this is how it works. If I felt like feeling mad or I wanted to feel mad, instead of pushing that emotion down or away or shaming myself and saying you shouldn't be feeling that way, or other things I did was eat chocolate, distract myself with my responsibilities, or get on technology, I have learned to sit and just sit with it, to just let mad be there, get really good at mad, and let it run its course in my body. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to feel mad and then it will all of a sudden poof, be gone after you sit with it. Sometimes I can't get rid of the emotion altogether. It's still there, but it's not near as strong. You will feel like it is down a few notches if you sit with it. That's much better than it being at its height. And when it's at its height, you just start pushing it away and resisting it and avoiding it. It's okay and normal to have these emotions not just disappear altogether, but just notice how sitting with the discomfort is not that big of a deal and it's healing and it's possible. You're practicing a process to improve your emotional health and your emotional intelligence. You will get better at this. It's powerful and it's productive. Instead of adding layer upon layer to your emotional pain and suffering, you are dealing with it. Also, start calling your emotion out for what it really is. Do not use I am statements for your emotions. That gives them way too much power. For instance, in this situation, when I'm feeling mad at my husband, I am going to use the phrase, I am feeling mad at him because I'm thinking this thought, instead of I am mad, which is saying you are really your emotions. You are not your emotions. You can observe your emotions, and that is what this work is you're observing them. So it's not you, it's what you're observing. And you are feeling an emotion, which is temporary, instead of this emotion is part of your identity. Like I am an angry person. You don't want negative emotions to be that powerful and to be who you are. You are really not your feelings. Feelings are just vibrations in your body, nothing more. That's it. I think Satan is the one who feeds us the lies that I am an angry person, or I am a mean person, or I am an impatient person, or I am a bad person. Let me give you some more examples. I am hurt, or I feel hurt. I am alone, or I feel lonely. I am depressed, or I feel sad. I'm an anxious person, or I feel anxiety regularly. I am angry, or I feel anger sometimes. That is the difference. Next time you're feeling a negative emotion, try to rephrase the statement and remind yourself that you are feeling the emotion, but you are not that emotion. Maybe have a notebook nearby to write down your observations and visually see and show your brain intellectually that you are not your emotions. Whatever works for you is the right thing, just as long as you can start separating before your emotions from who you are. What's the most common negative emotion that you feel? Try to rephrase it right now. So think of the most common emotion you feel. If I'm thinking of a client right now, she would say disappointment. So what is your most common emotion? Try to rephrase it. Like, I feel disappointed quite a bit instead of I am so disappointed in myself. I know it seems just like not that big of a deal, but it turns out it has been for me, that it is a big deal. The I am statements compared to the I feel statements. One more not so awesome moment that happened this week was bringing up past grievances to my husband. It did not go so well. I had felt Heavenly Father gently remind me that I did it wrong when we had this conversation, that I was acting on old thoughts and old patterns that stemmed from a space of fear. Fear is not a good headspace for me. Fear is allowing myself to swim in a negative vibration emotion, and it never leads to good results, especially in my relationships. I create disconnection every time. And I really do have my car in reverse instead of neutral or accelerating. And I have done many models on my brain. And when fear or anxiety is in that feeling line, I have some work to do. So I did it wrong this week multiple times. I was thinking about this and I took it up with God and I asked him what he thought about all my blunders. It really felt like a week of blunders. I hadn't even told you half of them because I've had a lot of mind drama lately and a lot of life drama lately. And I've been spinning in even this thought of receiving revelation and knowing I'm getting it and then not acting on it or trying to act on it and messing up when I try. And I got this from God. I got this thought that you are being blessed for trying each day. It's okay to only act on 75% of revelation received and not be able to do the 25%. You will keep receiving revelation for trying. And that was part of my drama in my mind, was that I thought, if I can't, you get more revelation if you act on your revelation. And if I can't act on what I've received, then I'm not going to be able to get more. And he's just going to give up on me. And he's going to say, I can't keep giving her revelation because she's A, not acting on it and doing what I asked her to do, or B, doing it wrong. So what he gave me is this is a process and it gets easier with time, as with all learning and growth. And he gave me this assurance that I'll get better and better at heeding and acting on his promptings, and that I've already improved, and that I'm doing better than I think, and that I'm growing in spirit and light and truth, and that I'm helping others to learn to access this as well. What I've learned when I talk to God and I really put it out, and take it up with him, is that he is much kinder to me than I am to myself. This is part of how I know it is coming from him, is because it doesn't sound like my inner voice that's more critical. It's definitely more full of grace and mercy. And I can feel truth as I act on or write down these impressions. So there's no reason to give up on this process. Maybe we're at 50%, maybe we're at 75. I'm a mere mortal, I'm human, I make mistakes, and I will make many more. That's reality, and that's the plan. When I falter and you falter, we don't go back to square one. We figuratively maybe fall into a shallow or deep hole, depending on what's happening, and we halt our progress for a bit as we climb back out. But we climb out at that same spot. We didn't just fall down to the bottom of the hill. We climb out through our own just work of owning our mistakes and repenting. And then we move on. We just keep climbing up the mountain. It's really a simple process, but we can complicate it, and our brains can complicate it, and our emotions can complicate it. So my goal is to keep it as simple as I can. And then it's easier, and then it's possible. I have had these struggles this week, but I've also had some great moments of knowing that the Lord's hand is in my life and feeling his presence and feeling peace about things and being blessed and having so many joy-filled and beautiful and variety-filled experiences. And so I do share the hard things because I think they're the things that will help you most in your journey. But my life is beautiful and I'm grateful for every good thing that's happening, as well as the processes and mistakes that I'm making that I share with you regularly. And I think that that's one of my gifts as I speak to people who listen to my podcast. They just say, you're real. And you tell it like it is. And you're not afraid to show your weaknesses. And I do feel like as we're willing to acknowledge our weaknesses, we can make them stronger. But if we won't even acknowledge that we have them, it's going to be hard to become who we're meant to be. So much of this work is having a contrite spirit and a broken heart, which is what we say that we will have when we are baptized. That's a promise we make. And this work, there's nothing as humbling as just taking a look at what you are creating in your life and deciding you want something different and trying to do it better. And when you don't, being okay with not being able to do it perfectly. So, guys, have a great week. Seek and expect miracles. And if you have any time, if you could like this podcast or review it, that will help. Even share it with anybody who you think it could help. That will help get this message out. So, you guys have the best week, and we will see you next time.